Welcome to part one of a two-part series entitled Isadora Duncan, Expressing the Soul's Luminosity Through Dance.
Let us first teach little children to breathe, to vibrate, to feel, and to become one with the general harmony and movement of nature. Let us first produce a beautiful human being, a dancing child. Isadora Duncan.
Isadora Duncan was an American pioneer of modern contemporary dance who helped reshape the cultural restrictions of her day, giving rise to a freer movement style. She believed the dancer's body is simply the luminous manifestation of the soul, and her avant-garde dance form sought to illuminate our innermost being and our connection with nature. She explained,
"Listen to the music with your soul. Now, while listening, do you not feel an inner self awakening deep within you? That it is by its strength that your head is lifted, that your arms are raised, that you are walking slowly toward the light."
Isadora Duncan was born around 1877 in San Francisco, California, USA. Her father, Joseph Charles Duncan, was a banker, mining engineer, connoisseur of the arts, and poet, and her mother, Mary Isadora Duncan, was a music teacher. Isadora and her three siblings were raised largely on the singular income of their mother, as her parents separated when Isadora was still an infant. Mrs. Duncan, a lover of the arts, devoted many an evening regaling her children with the music of Ludwig van Beethoven, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, and Frédéric Chopin, or the poetry of William Shakespeare, Percy Shelley, John Keats, Robert Ingersoll, and the likes. Her nobility, disregard for material wealth, and creative nature laid the foundation for all her children to become artists in later life. Young Isadora was spirited, courageous, and independent. She had great survival skills and was every bit the artist and entrepreneur. This led her to take charge of things. Practical and shrewd, the burdens of the Duncan family fell naturally on her tiny shoulders. When her estranged father suddenly showed up, she was the bridge that somehow reconciled him with the family. Over time, she grew to know and appreciate her father, who gave them a beautiful house that came with a barn and a windmill. There, the Duncan family stayed peacefully for several years. Since her mother's earnings were inadequate to meet the family's needs, the Duncan clan had to put up with a fair bit of hardship. Unable to pay the rent, they had to relocate frequently, and there were also times when they had nothing to eat. On one such day, the family was left penniless and on the street. Isadora spent hours walking in the scorching sun in an effort to sell the exquisite Irish lace collar that adorned the neck of her dress. She received enough money from it to pay for a room and a box of tomatoes, which kept them housed and fed for a week. It was always Isadora, the pluckiest amongst them, who ventured forth and obtained food, like bread, from the merchants, either for free or on extended credit. Through such encounters, Isadora learned how to face tough merchants at a tender age. Once, she found her mother crying over some products she had knitted for a shop that declined to accept them. Young Isadora adorned her head with one of the knitted hats, dressed her hands with a pair of knitted gloves, and went peddling the wares from house to house. She sold everything for twice the amount of money that the shop would have given her mother. In her autobiography, My Life, Isadora wrote,
"When I hear fathers of families saying they are working to leave a lot of money for their children, I wonder if they realize that by so doing they are taking all the spirit of adventure from the lives of those children, for every dollar they leave them makes them so much the weaker. The finest inheritance you can give to a child is to allow it to make its own way, completely on its own feet."
Young Isadora did not like school life. she felt the scores all depended on a trick of memory. Accustomed to an untrammeled life since birth, the free-spirited Isadora would rather take solitary walks by the sea and indulge in her own fantasies. Her dance inspirations, her expression of freedom, she would attribute it all to her unhindered childhood development. Poverty and hardships in Isadora's early life had carved what she described as the spontaneous life which I had the opportunity to express as a child. She would retain this and draw upon it later in life to succeed in her artistic career. After quitting school at the age of 10, Isadora Duncan furthered her own education, reading thousands of books, from the works of Charles Dickens and William Makepeace Thackeray to William Shakespeare and many others, often by candlelight. As she frequented the Oakland Public Library, her diligence caught the attention of the poet and librarian, Ina Coolbrith, who became the girl's mentor. Isadora Duncan had dance within her very being, and this she expressed from a young age. Isadora had attended ballet school at the age of 9 on the advice of her mother's friend. Isadora asked the teacher why he wanted them to stand on their toes. When he replied, "Because it is beautiful," she responded that it was unsightly and against nature. After just 3 lessons, she quit ballet. She wrote,
"This stiff and commonplace gymnastics, which he called dancing, only disturbed my dream. I dreamed of a different dance. I did not know just what it would be, but I was feeling out towards an invisible world into which I divined I might enter if I found the key."
At the age of 6, Isadora had started what she called her School of the Dance. It was a neighbourhood troupe of very young infants that she gathered and taught by coaxing them to sway their arms. The act with the toddlers caught on. It was so popular that soon parents of little girls started paying her for dance lessons. Isadora's venture flourished, and by the age of 10, her services were in great demand. Assisted by her sister, Elizabeth, the pair taught in many of the wealthiest houses in San Francisco. With this success, Isadora and her family ventured further afield. Isadora promoted her dance form in Chicago and New York for a time. However, the reception was lukewarm at best. In 1898, the family decided to explore Europe, where Isadora imagined her craft might be better received. To save on the travel fare, they sailed on a small boat for citizens from the Cattle Kingdom, making its way from the US to Hull, United Kingdom. During the voyage, they saw firsthand the wretched plight of the struggling animal people on board, their horns goring each other in the crowded hold, and they incessantly moaned in pain, day and night. The encounter affected the Duncan family members deeply. After this incident, her brother, Raymond, became a vegetarian. Isadora Duncan was inspired by nature, especially the sea. Born by the sea, Isadora asserted that all the major events in her life had occurred by these aquatic expanses, stating,
"My life and my art were born of the sea."
Moreover, she said,
"Nature is the source of the dance. The movement of the waves, of winds, of the earth is ever in the same lasting harmony. We do not stand on the beach and inquire of the ocean what was its movement of the past and what will be its movement in the future."
Isadora Duncan also believed her life was strongly influenced by the Greek goddess Aphrodite, and when Aphrodite's star was in the ascendant, things went smoothly for Isadora. It also explained why in Europe she studied Greek mythology, imbibing the nobility and ideals of Greek art and culture. We look forward to presenting more on the life of Isadora Duncan, a truly innovative artist who expressed the riches of freedom, nature, and our souls through her beautiful dance.
Most of the food crops raised in the world today are fed to livestock destined for slaughter for us to eat, and most of the water used is used to raise the food crops that are fed to those animals. So when we choose to eat meat instead of vegetables, we are choosing to take food away from others who are hungry. Sharon Gannon, vegan.
Beloved viewers, thank you for your gracious presence today.